Good morning, everyone. Today we're talking about human health and animal consumption, specifically meat, dairy, and eggs, and how it affects the way we are. Now, you've all heard, you are what you eat. Now, that statement has never been truer, especially now that we're seeing all these new research and studies coming out that are proving this fact. So, we'll get right into it. If it'll work, there we go. You are what you eat. Now, why is taking a bite a life or death choice? Now, you may think that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but is it? Because whatever you take a bite of right now, it's going to affect your health 10 years from now. So make decisions that influence your health in the future. Make sure you're taking the bite of that right thing. Are you taking a bite out of that delicious hamburger and fries that we all want right now? Or are you taking a bite out of that smoothie? Are you making sure that what you're eating or drinking is healthy, is something that can actually benefit your body, that your body can digest properly, that your body can really utilize? Or are you making a decision for your momentary gratification? What do you reach for when you're hungry? I mean, I'm a full-time student and a full-time professional, so I work 60, 65 hours a week, and I go to school full-time. How do I balance that? Well, eating is not a priority, but when it is, I have to reach for something that's quick. Now, am I reaching for that bag of chips? Or am I reaching for something that's more healthy? Maybe a rice cake, some guacamole, something that's delicious but easy to go with. Now, tell me this. Obviously, we're all in a rush. If you're going to buy that bag of chips, you're probably going to eat it. So, making a decision about what's going to influence your health has never been more important. That starts at the grocery store and it comes all the way down to what you're eating or what you're drinking right now, probably as you're watching this video. So let's jump right into it. Let's look at cancer. Cancer is the most feared disease among humankind. I mean, by far, there's never been more money put into it, more research, more studies, more movies, more documentaries. You'll see thousands of them out there. So let's really look at it. Let's look at something called the China study. Now, the China study was done over a period of 20 to 30 years. I believe it's 25 if I remember right. And what they did was they looked at China, rural areas as well as more populated areas. And they said, well, what makes them different? Why are their rates of cancer so much lower than Western culture? Even Tokyo, for example, of Japan, or Shanghai in China, more westernized. They have McDonald's on every corner, Starbucks, all of that. What's causing the more rural areas to be much healthier than the more civilized, as they say? So they did a large scale study, and they were able to show that food directly influences the health. So Japan, for example, prostate cancer rate is the lowest in the world. There was 14,000 deaths in a period of 5 years. I believe that was 2010 to 2015. Now, that's nothing compared to what our rates were. Our rates were over 465,000 deaths. Now, that's a huge difference, 14,000 to 465,000. What's the difference? What is the difference between Japan and the United States? Is it stress level? Is it food? Well, they found that while, yes, stress is combined in this, majority of what they're seeing, because Japan also lives a very fast-paced lifestyle, is food. Food affects it all. Same thing in the Philippines. Colon cancer rates among the rich and the poor families. We're not even going outside of one country. We're staying in the same country, same genetic pool, same everything. The richer families could afford to eat the meat. And because of that, they had 10 times the amount of colon cancer. And these were in young kids as well. So what is happening? What's that little link going on? Same, again, same genetics, same country. You have the same people that you're working with. So what is the single common factor influencing this? It's your food. It's what you're eating. It's what you're taking in day by day. So let's step back. Maybe not cancer. Let's look at something else. So the likeliness of developing a disease attributed to food, according to the CDC and WebMD, comparing rates versus what the average American eats and what the vegans will eat. So know your risk. Average American, 40% chance you're going to develop diabetes. 3.4% chance of colon cancer, which can be the most deadly form of cancer. It's painful and it's not pretty. I've seen it. Multiple sclerosis. 10% of Americans will get it. And this number is only rising. All these numbers are rising. This is the low end. I was looking for multiple rates and no one really agreed with each other. So this is on the lower side, just to give you an idea of what it is. Now, vegans, once you bring in the vegan diet to this, now with diabetes, 0.24% of vegans will get diabetes. A lot of this will end up being genetic, type 1 rather than type 2 diabetes. Colon cancer, 0.07. Not saying it doesn't happen, but much, much lower. Wouldn't you rather know that just by changing your diet, you're going to affect your chances of getting these horrible diseases? Multiple sclerosis, 5%. Not as big of a difference, but diet does influence how you are. Take control of your future. Know your results. Research. It doesn't hurt to research. The amount of studies I've seen comparing vegans to non-vegans, meat versus eating eggs versus eating milk, more or less the results all coincide with each other. You might get a couple anomalies here and there, but majority of the time the results don't lie. These are long-term studies done from mice to humans, and there are many really interesting results. So let's define some terms before we move into the next step. So we have vegans, we have ovo-vegetarians versus lacto-vegetarians, and vegetarians themselves. So we'll move into this. So we've heard it all. I've heard everyone call themselves something different, and then there's even more terms out there, but let's stick with the four basic. So we have vegans. Now this is someone who chooses to eat nothing from an animal. No honey, no bee pollen, no meat, no dairy, no eggs, none of that. They only eat fruits, vegetables, beans, some oils, things like that. If it came from a plant, absolutely. If it came from an animal, they won't touch it. I find myself leaning mostly vegan. Every once in a while, I'll do a little bit of milk, but I do try to stay away from that as well. Vegetarians, someone who will eat anything, not eat anything that was once alive, so no meat, but they will eat eggs and milk because they don't believe that that really affects them as much. A lot of times this is a personal belief choice as well. So there's ovo-vegetarians, someone who eats no meat or dairy but will consume the eggs as part of their diet. And there's lacto-vegetarian, someone who will eat no meat or eggs but will consume dairy as part of their regular diet. I guess I'd kind of identify myself more with lacto-vegetarian. It's very rare I do drink milk. I do try to avoid that as well, but sometimes I'm going out, eating, it's hard. Most restaurants, it's very hard to find a truly vegan unless you're going to go for salad every time, which there's nothing wrong with that, and that's an amazing thing to do. But try to mix it up a little bit. Alright, so you're going to hear a million different things. Oh, don't be vegan because you're not going to get enough calcium or protein. Well, let's look at protein. Let's just stop and look at that first. So a body really only needs between 5 to 10% of calories in protein. This is compared to a 2,000 calorie average diet. So between 28 to 40 grams a day. That's all. If you buy a protein powder, for example, like they think you need more and more protein, you have 40 grams in an average scoop. That's all the protein you need for the day, and you literally can't eat anything else. If you eat beans, beans have tons of protein in them. Even broccoli. Broccoli has 40% more protein than even the average vegetable. So you're looking at 5-6 grams of protein just in a serving of broccoli. So protein powder, it's a little overkill. And we've been conditioned as a culture to see protein as we need it, we need it, we need it. We can't survive without it. Well, we get plenty of it if we simply eat vegetables. So another thing, calcium. You have to have dairy, you have to have milk. That's not true. Kale, for example, packs twice as much calcium per serving as milk, and it's 3 times as digestible. We can actually process the food from kale, whereas milk, oh, that's why you have a lot of people who are lactose intolerant. They can't process the milk. So kale, for example, gives you a nice little way out of that without having to take any medication to help you process milk. Why force your body to digest something that it really shouldn't be? So as we're looking at this, don't let them say protein, you're not going to get enough protein. I rather doubt that. If you're eating an average amount of calories, between 1,500 to 2,000 a day, depending on the body, and depending on gender, activity level, all of that, you're going to more than be capable of getting enough protein. In fact, you're probably still eating too much protein. I know I do. I track everything I eat, and on average, I'm eating about 50 grams of protein a day. That's from beans, do a lot of rice, avocados for healthy fats. Between eating all of that, you end up getting quite a bit of protein in there, and you never really have to worry about it. I'm never looking at my diet at the end of the day saying, oh no, I didn't get enough protein. Never. In fact, there's sometimes I'm like, maybe I should adjust this a little bit to make sure I don't get too much. Alright, so let's look at the vegan pyramid before we get into the next step here. So the idea is if you're not going to eat meat, dairy, eggs, what's going to replace those food groups? So if we start on the bottom of the actual pyramid, you'll see the veggie group. So 3 to 5 servings, eat liberally. You can eat pretty much anything you want. Fruit group, 2 to 4 servings. You can pretty much eat as much of this as you want. Your body digests it properly. It doesn't store it as fat unless you're eating an extensive amount of fruit. Try to avoid going overboard on anything. Then you have your whole grains, breads, pasta, cereal groups, 6 to 11 servings a day. Carbs are not your enemy. Believe it or not, it's not the carbohydrates that stick to your body. It's how your body processes it. And when it's being weighed down with animal matter, uh, basically milk, eggs, anything you're eating like that, your body's going to automatically absorb more fat. Do you really want that? I mean, if you're trying to lose weight, carbs are your friend, not your enemies. So then you have fortified dairy substitutes. So things like almond milk, coconut milk, soy milk. I'm not a huge soy person myself, and that's mainly because I know that soy raises estrogen levels and that can influence breast cancer and things like that. So I've avoided that myself. Plus, majority of soy is genetically modified. So it's a personal decision. You can choose what you want to do. I try to stay away from anything soy based. You do also have your legumes, seeds, beans group. So flax seeds, peanut butter, almond butter. I try to stay from, again, peanut butter, not super into that based on just health reasons. But a lot of your beans, so love garbanzo beans, kidney beans, black beans, red beans. Literally, if it exists as a bean, it's delicious and it's worth eating. Then you have your vegetable oils and fats. Now, sweet, salt, spices, nuts, try to use them sparingly. And the less oil you're putting in your body, the better. You can get natural versions of fat from flax seeds. You can get it from avocados. There's delicious ways of getting this without actually having any issues. So when you're looking at a study and you want to do your research on your own, you're going to look at who's funding the study. When the National Meat and Dairy Association is funding a study, you're probably pretty sure that study's going to say that meat's great for you and that's all you should be eating. Probably just look at your sources. Make sure that you're not getting confused or having the wool pulled over your eyes, as they say. Make sure that you're actually doing the research for what needs to be done. Make sure you know who's funding it. So again, the American Diabetic Association recommends meat. Well, who funds them? It's the National Meat and Dairy Association. So of course, the Heart Association, when you're looking at it, don't just look for a title. Look at who's funding the people who are funding the studies, because you'll find their real reasons. So what decisions will you make with your every bite that will influence your health 5, maybe even 10 years from now? It's your choice. It's your decision.